Move even despite it being 1,200 pounds. It's about 22 feet long, the tube, and our lens is 16 inches.
Here's an astrological view from the Stattosphere. Hey, we're at the Cincinnati Observatory and we're going to learn about the giant telescope inside and the history behind this awesome building right here in Cincinnati. Let's go. So here is one of the giant telescopes here at the Cincinnati Observatory, and Anna He-Man is going to be here to kind of tell us the history, how this thing works, and maybe we'll even open the dome. How you doing today, Anna?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So what is it like to work here? First of all, this has to be a fun job.
It really is. I've been here 9 years, and it never gets old to hear people of all ages be excited to come in and see our telescopes and learn more about the observatory.
How old are these telescopes? There's one in this building, this one right here. How old is this guy?
Yeah, so this scope is from 1904. It's a Clark scope. It's purchased by Alvin Clark and Sons. So this is our newer scope though, because our scope next door is actually from the 1840s, and it's the oldest public telescope still available for viewing in this hemisphere.
And you guys have scientists come from all over the world to view different things in outer space from here, don't you?
We do. We have visitors from all over the world. We have a museum collection as well, so we have several scientific instruments. And what's great about the observatory is we're the first public observatory in the country, so we aren't just available or haven't just been available for researchers and scientists, but for anybody to come in and visit. And we host and work with about 35,000 people a year. And it's really exciting, like I said, to always see their reactions and their excitement when they get to visit.
That's a lot of field trips right there.
It's a lot of field trips. It is, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Now, it's daylight right now. So if I were to look in that telescope, would I go blind in the eye that I look through?
Well, just like for the eclipse, you need to have safe solar viewing when you're looking through a telescope. So we would have a filter on this scope. So yeah, you definitely don't want to look through it right now. We don't have the protective covering on it. But you couldn't see the sun during the daytime. People are always surprised that the sun is something we look at, but it's actually really cool to see it. There's prominences and flares, and sometimes
you can see like the flames coming off it.
Yeah, and sometimes it's kind of active, which is pretty fun.
Well, that's neat. So can we open the dome?
We can. Let's do it.
All right. All right, this is kind of a two-part job where Anna pulls on one rope and I'll start pulling the other, and it's going to get real bright in here real quick. So let's open the dome. Ready?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so I just pull this way.
Yeah.
Oh, this is cool. It's a lot smoother than I thought.
It's true. Yeah, you're a natural. There you go. Now it'll kind of, all right, you should be good. You'll feel the rope kind of. All right.
Yeah.
So now we have we call our shutter. It's open and we're able to view.
And then you could just adjust the telescope with this wheel right over here.
That's right. So this scope is about 1,200 pounds. We have a counterweight that's about 800 pounds. So it allows us to be able to point the lens or have the lens be wherever we need to have it for what we're trying to view. So you turn the wheel and the scope move even despite it being 1,200 pounds. It's about 22 feet long, the tube, and our lens is 16 inches. For this scope, you can see it has they're called finder scopes, these small scopes on the side that help us kind of...
Okay, that's what this little thing is right here. That's a finder scope, and then when you look through right here, that's how you'll see the whole universe and everything, huh?
That's right. We have several different eyepieces we use depending on what we're trying to view, but we obviously use modern eyepieces despite having older equipment. And then, so the scope also can go from this side of we call this the pier. The scope is on a 2-story pier, which is very rare. Samuel Hannaford built this building in 1873 and was showing off a bit to have a 2-story observatory. So the scope is steady on the pier, of course, and theoretically it's built so that if something were to happen structurally to this building, that the scope and the pier are almost separate, and so they maybe could be saved or undamaged if there were to be something to happen structurally. So he was thinking of everything when he put this together.
So the building would like crumble around it and this would still be standing?
Hopefully not, but if that were to be what happened, yeah, then the scope is sort of independent and maybe salvaged or less damaged, which is, you know, important for sure.
And how far into space does this like view to?
That's a good question. We get that question a lot. So this scope, our scopes, because they're historic, they're not the most powerful scopes. They can view within our solar system. So we've had Neptune up in this scope before, which is pretty far out. But really the value in our scopes is their sort of history and the science behind putting them together. But, you know, now we have scopes that are computerized or, you know, that are more powerful you can own personally. But still we get some great views through our scopes for sure.
All right, so, but this is just one of the scopes. You got a whole nother building with a whole nother scope inside.
We do, and that's our Mitchell scope, which is, we don't like to play favorites, but it's kind of our baby. It's the oldest public telescope still in use in this hemisphere.
Mitchell scope, anything to do with like Mitchell Avenue, or is he the same guy?
With Fort Mitchell.
Yeah.
So the founder of Fort Mitchell and the founder, which is in Northern Kentucky, of course, and then the founder of the observatory is Ormsby McKnight Mitchell. He was a genius, astronomy lecturer, war hero. He founded the observatory, and so our Mitchell scope is named for him. He purchased it in the 1840s, and then of course he's also has Fort Mitchell as his namesake as well.
All right, she said I can move this however I want. So let's see how easy it is to move this thing. Oh, it moves like with just a finger. It's so well balanced. This is really cool. And then you look through this right here, and you can see everything from Mars to Venus. That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Wow. How heavy is this thing again?
So it's 1,200 pounds, and the tube is 22 feet long. And it really is an incredibly, obviously large and very well made instrument. But as you said, you can use it very simply and move it pretty easily. And we're still able to use it today, even though it's
and you're telling me about these two gauges right here. So we could adjust the wheel. Is it the top one or bottom one?
The top one.
Top one, and it'll move the coordinates on here also. So you could take your scientific readings and really track.
And if you're tracking something in the sky, kind of be able to know where you were and what you were looking at. There's also a counterweight down here. I don't know if you want to film that or not, but there's it's about a 400-pound weight. So what they used to do was like you'd crank the weight up, and then it moves the scope. So again, if you're tracking something, or if you're kind of in the sky, you're doing observations, it sort of moves the eyepiece with the sky. So it's they used to pay kids in the neighborhood to come and crank the weight up. Is the story?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So back when they would, because even though we were public, they used to do research here as well. So.
Now, what is the coolest thing that you've seen through this scope?
Oh my goodness. I missed the chance to see Neptune a few weeks ago, which was a bummer. But I have to say, this scope is amazing. The best views are probably through the Mitchell, which I hate to say, but seeing Saturn really through either one of our scopes is the most incredible view. People can't believe it. It's clear as can be. And it's just incredible to be able to see it up close. And there's such a historic instrument.
And you can see the rings?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can see it perfectly.
Awesome.
People think we have a picture taped to the end of the telescope. We've been accused of that multiple times.
Because it's that clear.
It's that clear, yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. All right, so we're in the second building, and this is the old girl. This is a piece of history that we have here. How old is this scope?
This scope is from 1843, 1845. So
yeah, and I can move it around?
You can move it around.
Oh man, this moves like it's brand new.
Yeah, we take a lot of care with the scopes, and we maintain them because we use them weekly for viewing and for programs. This scope is brass and mahogany. You can see it was made by, it's technically a Merz and Mahler scope. Merz and Mahler is the company that made the scope. You can kind of see their inscription here, just like on the other scope. But we call it, like we talked about, our Mitchell scope because we named it for our founder, who's the one who purchased it.
And how do you clean the lens in the scope? How do you keep it so clear?
That's kind of that's a bigger process. We have to have experts come in and help us clean the lenses, actually, which we're going to probably do this coming year. But we basically keep it clean and good for viewing by making sure we have a cap on the one lens. We keep our eyepieces covered, of course, so nothing gets in them, no dust or anything like that. And so that's ready to go whenever we're ready to view.
So it's just completely airtight, sealed in there to keep anything out.
Yeah.
Okay. And this one has been used for,
yeah, 8 generations of Cincinnatians and beyond have looked through this scope. So it's been here. We were actually originally in Mount Adams and then moved out here in the 1870s. This scope was in the original location and of course came here. So it has been a constant in our history since our founding actually in the 1840s. And then now it's here as well for today's viewing.
So that must have had a lot to do with like Edison inventing the light bulb, and then all of a sudden you get all this light pollution in downtown Cincinnati and you had to get out.
Well, and pollution from Cincinnati was very industrial. You know, there was smog and smoke, and being in Mount Adams right there was very difficult for the idea that we need these clear skies. And so the idea was to move 5 miles east, this as of yet unincorporated area, which became Mount Lookout when we moved here. And this was rural, this was farm, there's nothing here. So it was the dark sky site we needed without that sort of smog and pollution from downtown.
All right, I say we open the dome in this room too. All right, here we go. Anna, what did you just say?
I said you break it, you buy it.
Oh, I'm waiting for that. All right, here we go. We're going to try to open up the dome now. Now this is the unlock it?
Yep.
Oh, my. Okay, and then we just pull on this rope here. Oh, there it goes. Oh, maybe. Oh.
Hold on. There you go.
There it is. There it is. Okay.
Now this, opposite, yeah.
It just opens like a little sliver here. Now say if something's, you know, further on the east side of town, we're kind of pointing south right now, we could rotate the whole dome over there.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. Come on, this is really neat. I love this stuff. All right. I mean, just this, the mechanics of all this was all handmade. So we could just, let's see.
Either way you can do, yeah.
Oh, my, oh, it's heavy.
Harder than it looks, yeah. Gotta put some muscle into it. Good spot. There you go. See? Easy as could be.
There it goes. Okay, okay. Now this scope looks like brand new. It looks so clean. What is the upkeep of it like just for the outside? We talked about the lens already, but the scope itself.
Well, we just this summer did a restoration sort of project with the brass parts on the scope. They were certainly a little bit weathered from so much wear and touching, and you don't think about all that.
Greasy fingers like mine, grabbing it and moving it around.
Exactly.
And this moves so smoothly. Do you got to oil this regularly, or is it a lot of maintenance?
We just make sure it is able to be pointed, and it's able to be used because we do use it so frequently. And we do constant work on the scope. We want to have it as original as possible. Of course, we use modern eyepieces, but there's an Antique Telescope Society that helps sometimes. We have some partners at UC Physics, some great volunteers, and then museum staff that help ensure it's in great shape.
Okay, and any major discoveries through the lens of this that you could think of?
Unfortunately, none that I can think of. But you know, viewing the moon and Saturn through the scope is an exciting discovery.
I heard this is where they discovered that the moon is not made out of cheese. Is there any truth to that?
I can't comment on that.
And is there a face to the moon? Does it smile back at you when you look at it?
I think it's like a Rorschach, whatever you see. If you think, we get good detail, so maybe it is smiling. Yeah, it's subjective.
Another random question. So can I hold like my phone's camera up to this lens and take pictures through it?
Well, you can do astrophotography with a phone. It requires some different sort of equipment, but what we always like to do is make sure people, or try to make sure people have this sort of singular experience looking through the scope. It's really incredible, just this analog experience of just, you know, one person at a scope being able to view something so far up in the sky. But absolutely for the astrophotographers out there, you can get all kinds of very basic equipment that help you to be able to use your phone to take pictures through the scope. Interesting.
And have you ever viewed any UFOs flying by while you're looking through the scope?
How did I know that was going to be a question? No, we have not seen any. I'm waiting for you to ask if it's haunted here, which it's not either. It's not haunted.
So the building's not haunted. It's an old 1800s building, and there's no ghosts.
You can never say never, but I don't think so.
Okay, you haven't experienced it.
I've not experienced it, but yeah. So no UFOs. We do get a lot of calls about interesting things in the sky, so we always like to try to assuage people's concerns when they see something interesting. It's usually maybe a comet or a satellite, or sometimes it's Venus or Mars shining brightly. But no UFOs. But you're the first person I'll call if I see one.
Oh, right. Deal. Okay. During the solar eclipse, will you be able to look through this, or will it blind your eye?
So this scope has a solar filter that we can put on it during the eclipse or any solar viewing that we do, which is imperative to make sure that your eyes are protected and safe. So depending on the weather, we'll probably have our scopes outside just because we'll probably have a larger crowd, but you could safely view a solar eclipse, or again, just do daily solar viewing through the scope when we apply the filter.
Now, I found this kind of interesting, Anna. You said you have to store the scope straight up and down. Every time you're done with it, you got to put it back that way. Why is that?
So we store it straight up and down to make sure that nothing happens as far as the tube getting bent or the lens being compromised in any way. Storing it straight up and down allows for it to remain straight, of course. And so when we're ready to use it, it's ready to go and ready for a great view. And
then this pedestal, this center column thing here, you said this goes all the way down to bedrock?
It does. We call this our pier. So this is, of course, how the scope is stabilized, and it goes all the way down into bedrock, which is how it was drawn and designed, so that the scope will, of course, be stable and in place for many years to come.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Another really neat thing at the observatory is this clock that's in the basement. Why that clock in that little hole that's, was that sealed and everything?
Yeah,
why is that so special?
Well, it used to be the clock that kept the time for the city. So we used to have a time ball in this building, just like at New Year's Eve, a ball comes down and say Happy New Year. Essentially, the observatory was the official timekeeper. We would have that ball. When the ball would reach the base of the building, it was noon. So the farmers all around knew what time it was. And so obviously everybody can look at their phone and know what time it is. And it's a different thing in history, but that's like this because that was a key role we played in the city and helping with keeping time.
So when you called that phone number and got the official time, it was based off of this clock right here?
Right, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. I had no idea. We used to have to call that thing all the time.
That's right.
Neat. So now we're kind of in the round museum portion of the observatory, and it's full of really interesting facts. One fun story, the National Weather Service was started by one of the directors here years ago.
That's right. So our second director, Cleveland Abbey, actually went to Wilmington to another observatory and founded the National Weather Service. But we claim him as ours, of course, and like to talk about that as well. And we, of course, always get our weather from weather.gov because in tribute to Cleveland Abbey.
Look at that, the Cincinnati connections, and it doesn't end. Now let's talk about why this Pringles can is at the observatory. Tell me about the shape of the Pringle chip.
So we get somebody at least once a week saying someone left their snack here. And the reason this is here is because one of our directors, Paul Herget, the story goes that he used to work with Procter & Gamble in the evenings when computers took up a whole room when he was doing his computations. And they, at some point, came to him and said, we're having a problem. We want to design this chip to go in this canister, but they keep breaking and we can't ship them. And so he designed what is called a hyperbolic paraboloid, or suggested that shape for the Pringle.
Look at this.
And so that's why when you get your Pringles, generally they're not broken. There's a couple at the bottom that are broken, but they're able to be stacked together without breaking and be able to ship and then be enjoyed. So next time you enjoy a delicious Pringle, thank Dr. Paul Herget, maybe.
Right here in the observatory. I had no idea. I just thought we were going to be talking about stars and the moon and Saturn and planets, and now we learned about keeping time, the weather, and even the Pringle chip.
Absolutely.
Anna He-Man, this is so awesome. I've learned so much today, and there's so much more to learn. I cannot stress enough to bring your family down here. Just come on down. How often are you guys open? Where do people go to get tickets? And you also do weddings and special events. What do we do?
We do. So we're open generally every Friday. We call Astro Fridays. So that's a program, viewing, and if it's cloudy, we do a tour. We do all kinds of special events to the public. We have planet nights in the summer. We do classes, especially for the upcoming eclipse. We'll have lots of classes and things. And then we have, you can rent the observatory for weddings or special events and parties as well. But we just encourage everybody to come up here, and it's just an incredible experience to see the history. It's we think a great gem in the city, and just a unique experience.
Yeah, right on. And what was the website again?
CincinnatiObservatory.org.
Thank you guys for going on this adventure with me and this view from today's Stattosphere. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you.